Are we live? We're live. All right. My people, we are live. We're live. Yo, take out that thing so my people can see me, yo. All right. My people, how you doing? Ausares, Louise, Uwacu in the building. Welcome to U&I Talk Show, my people. Today, my people, focus on Ethiopia. Okay, I brought out the African map just in case some of you don't even know where Ethiopia is. It's right here, okay? Right here. Okay, so they usually call this entire region the Horn of Africa. And today we're focusing on the Horn of Africa because some people are about to get bitten by the horn. My people, okay, I see you. Chala Tiya Bizu, I see you. Okay, you are here, my people. You are here. So let's start the show. We are focusing on Ethiopia today. It's going to be a great show. We have an Ethiopian guy who is going to demystify everything you've been hearing about Ethiopia in the media. We're going to get to the bottom of it today, my people. All right, welcome to the show, you and I. All right, my people, let's bring in our guest right away. Okay, let me show you. Let me flash the Iman sign first. Welcome to the show, Mr. Casa Whoopshed Web. How you doing?
I'm doing very well, Louise. Thank you for inviting me to discuss this very important issue about the conflict in Ethiopia. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
let me take advantage and speak like the little Ethiopian that I know, which in Indeminish.
Ndamenesh, yes. Ndamenesh for a lady, and Ndamenesh for a man. So, which is good.
Indemine to you.
Ndamenesh to me, yes. Wonderful.
All
Yeah, you're
right.
learning fast. It's
I
good.
am learning. And the people behind the scene, I would like to promote my Ethiopian friend. Cheers to you. I got this. This is Ethiopian
Cheers.
wine. It's called Tej. Ethiopian wine. I bought it from Gojo. Gojo, it's a restaurant in Vancouver. The restaurant is on Commercial Drive and 12th Street. I'm asking you to support Ethiopian businesses right now. If you're going to support Ethiopian businesses, go to the Gojo restaurant, my people. Great food, great customer service. I love it. So, after that, tell us, Web, Ethiopia on the news, and it's not good news. So, this is the thing that I don't understand. I'm going to tell you what I don't understand right away so you can clarify it for me. We're Canadians, Canadian Africans, African Canadian. We're in Canada. It's a democratic country. And in Canada, there's a law. It's illegal in Canada to pick up arms and to go and attack the government and seek to change the government by the power of the guns. Because it's a democratic country, no one in this country, it's illegal. You cannot take guns and go try to change the government by the power of the gun. It's illegal in Canada. So, what's going on in Ethiopia? I hear this is what's happening in Ethiopia. Have I been misinformed? What's happening? And why is it that in Ethiopia you can just pick up guns and go change a democratic government, because as far as I have learned, the government in Ethiopia is a democracy. The person in charge has been elected, just like we elected the Prime Minister Trudeau in Canada. Like right now, he doesn't even have a majority government, he has a minority government. But still, even if he has a minority government, you still don't have the right to take up the guns and go change him. In Ethiopia, you have democracy, you have a leader who's been elected by the majority, and then someone picked up the guns and wanted to change the government by the power of the guns. I don't understand it. Now, please explain it to me.
Excellent. That's a very wonderful question and something that none of us expected to happen, honestly speaking. So before I do that, let me just give you a little bit of background, who I am and also who I represent, and then maybe I'll give you the background about the conflict in Ethiopia, just to set the tone, and then we'll continue on. So my name is Webshet Kasa, or Web, as you stated, and I'm a national and local board member of the Ethiopian Ethio-Canadian Network for Advocacy and Support, ECNAS, and a member of the ECNAS PR team. ECNAS is a nonprofit organization with a dozen chapters from Halifax all the way to Vancouver, whose aim is to advocate for peace, democracy, and human rights in Ethiopia. ECNAS was founded about a year ago, when the conflict you alluded to started in Ethiopia, about in November 4th, to be exact. The topic of, which is the topic of our discussion here. Since then, ECNAS has been engaged in advocacy work, as well as mobilizing the Ethio-Canadian community around provision of emergency relief and rehabilitation of victims in conflict or natural disaster areas. Just to give you a background about the conflict, this is something that the country doesn't need at this point. As you said, we have the first election this last June, fairly democratic election this June, and we have a new prime minister that came to power about 3 years ago. The way he came, I'll discuss here, and then how the conflict started and what this conflict evolved into by especially a smear campaign that was launched by international communities, as well as the mainstream media. So TPLF, the Tigray People's Liberation Front, was ruling Ethiopia for 27 years, between 1991 to 2018, with an iron fist. Pretty much it was a corrupt and tyrannical regime that embezzled $35 billion of aid money. They massacred, imprisoned countless Ethiopians with no reason, except maybe they were opposed to their political ideology, and institutionalized ethnic division. That's the source of this arms you kind of alluded to, how they pretty much amassed a large weaponry to eventually attack the Ethiopian army in the north. TPLF also controlled, during that 27 years, they controlled Ethiopia's economy, military, security, business, and diplomacy. They controlled everything. And in 2018, they were removed from power. The people in leadership were removed from power by a popular uprising. People said enough is enough. We're not going to take this tyrannical regime anymore, and they pushed for a change, and a reformist prime minister, Dr. Abiy Ahmed, came to power. Shortly after he came to power, he released political prisoners invited exiled opposition parties, and also established an independent election board. And as you said, in June of this year, Ethiopia held a fairly democratic election. And Prime Minister Abiy's party, the Prosperity Party, won by a landslide, winning majority of the seats in parliament. Following the TPLF leaders' removal from power, they went to their region. Ethiopia is now divided by regions based on ethnicity. So we had 10 regions, now there is 11 of them based on ethnicity. So TPLF is from the Tigray region.
Let me interrupt for a second.
Sure.
When you say, so Ethiopia is a federation like Canada, I'm
Yes.
going to do a parallels with Canada because we are in Canada, we are Canadians.
Yes.
Ethiopia is a federation like Canada. And then
Yeah.
you say it's based on ethnicity, but is it like how even in Canada the federation is kind of based on ethnicity? You have Quebec for the French, and then you have the British Columbia where we are for the British. You know what I mean? So this idea that it's based on ethnicity, it's a federation. That's comparable to how Canadians, the French have their country, the English have their country, but it's a federation which makes Canada whole, right?
Definitely, it's a federation based on ethnicity. So, if you belong to a certain ethnic group, you'd have a region. Like, for instance, the largest groups are the Oromo is the largest, and then the Amhara, and then you have the Tigray, and then other smaller ethnicities. So before that, Ethiopia was divided, or pretty much the boundary was delineated based on geography as opposed to ethnicity. So even the TPLF, when they were in power, they had the citizens' identity on their identification card. So when it just served their purpose. The reason they had this kind of ethnic-based federation was to divide and rule. So that people are not going to come against them as an Ethiopian entity or as an Ethiopian group to probably push them out of power. So you're right. It's a federation, but the federation could be done in a different way, without targeting people based on their ethnic origin.
Mm-hmm. But I'm
So
just saying, like, it works in Canada. The British have their own provinces, the French have their own provinces, and they don't even speak the same language in Quebec versus British Columbia.
definitely, I mean,
Because people always talk about Africans and they want to divide African ethnically and say maybe that's wrong, but Europeans are divided ethnically, even right here in Canada.
definitely, but when it comes to Ethiopia, people have intermarried. I myself, I cannot identify myself in one ethnic group. My mother could be from somewhere else, and my dad, elsewhere. So when you have this, you would eliminate a lot of us, like me, who do not align to a certain ethnic group. You might say, yeah, in Canada there is Quebec. They have different culture, different language, and they want their own enclave, like the one province. But they can, anyone from Quebec can travel throughout, Canada and live peacefully. But the way this arrangement is done has caused a lot of ethnic conflict. People were
Oh.
displaced because of their ethnicity.
Mm.
So the larger groups pushing out the minorities. I would be called a minority or an outsider if I go to a certain region. And when I'm not, it's getting better, but there used to be a lot of hostility in that sense.
Mm.
Yeah.
But still,
So
everyone remains under the same constitution. Everyone still is Ethiopian, even though they may be in different regions, different ethnic group. Everyone is still under the federation, under the same law.
well, it is supposedly, but there was a lot of pressure, a lot of um, you know, a lot has happened that that kind of, in a way, was trying, in a way, to diminish the identity as Ethiopian citizenship, as Ethiopian citizen. People were identifying more based on their ethnicity as opposed to as a whole group Ethiopia. Like in Canada, you would say I'm from Canada. I mean, when I go to Ethiopia or anywhere else, that's what I say. But some people might not identify as an Ethiopian, but rather as their own specific ethnic groups, and
Mm,
that was more. That's why, that identity as as ethnic identity has that. That has potential to kind of deem that Ethiopianness. Most of us believe it.
All right, all right, all
Yeah.
right.
So if you want me to continue, just
Yes,
to
please.
get to
Yes,
the, I
please.
can
Yes.
carry on, but go ahead and ask at any time, at any point.
Yes. Thank you.
So as I said, the prime minister was elected in June of this year, and he has uh, amazingly high majority support. Um, Following the removal, as I said, those TPLF leaders went to that region I was saying, Tigray, where they originally started their struggle as a socialist group, actually a communist, an Albanian communist uh, group, and started preparing to overthrow the government. And they pretty much undermined the federal government, and they held their own election during COVID, when the parliament decided to postpone the election because of the pandemic. And also the leadership of the TPLF rejected any attempts for peaceful resolution of their differences. There were delegations of elders, religious leaders, and including mothers, who went to Tigray to pretty much plead the leadership to resolve the differences with the federal government in a peaceful manner. So they refused that, and on November 4th, 2018, the TPLF forces committed an insurrection, as you said, by attacking the northern command of the Ethiopian army. Most of the Ethiopian army was stationed in Tigray because of the conflict of over 20 years ago with Eritrea. So all the heavy machinery was there, and they pretty much, on the night of the 4th, they went and attacked and massacred those soldiers who were stationed there for 20 years, who were helping the Tigrayan farmers during harvest, building schools, and doing all kinds of humanitarian work during their spare time. But on this fateful night, they were attacked. They were attacked while they were asleep. And as a result, the Ethiopian government had no option but to launch a law enforcement operation to bring those perpetrators to justice. And most of them were former or even uh, serving military officials and rank and file that participated in this uh, what do you call it, treasonous act. And following that, in June of this year, the Ethiopian government declared a unilateral ceasefire and withdrew its forces from Tigray. But the TPLF ignored the ceasefire and invaded the neighboring regions of Afar and Amhara. Some of them are still under the control of the TPLF. And during after they invaded those regions, they committed atrocities, including gender-based violence in those regions, which was actually reported by Amnesty International. And however, the media and the international community failed to condemn the TPLF's human rights violations while engaging in a relentless smear campaign and false propaganda against the Ethiopian government. And they are still doing that. So this is kind of the background, the backdrop of how this whole conflict started. And as you said, because these regions are based on ethnicity, and these regions have their own militia and special forces. So that's how they had trained over 200,000, supposedly 200,000 militias and special forces. And from the weaponry they stole from the Ethiopian government, they were actually firing rockets to other parts of Ethiopia and Eritrea as well during that time. So
when you hear about Ethiopia in the media, it's as if Ethiopia woke up one day and attacked Tigray. But so that's not what happened. Tigray woke up one day and attacked its own federal government. So what I don't understand is there no law in Ethiopia? Like we have a law. We started by saying we have a law in Canada that specifically says even if you're unhappy with your government, you can't seek to change it by guns, by force. Is there no such law in Ethiopia? Can any group which has the power of the gun pick up the guns and seek to change the government anytime?
I mean, Louise, as you said, there is a constitution that actually the TPLF wrote and is the law of the land. However, they violated that law and went on undermining as I said, when they held their own election in September of 2020, I believe, they went against the Constitution. They actually adopted and created and made a law, and they were using during their reign of 27. Probably they put that Constitution maybe in 1995. So for the last 20-some years, it was the law of the land, but they did go against that law and launched that attack. But as you kind of alluded earlier, the way the media and Western governments initially, at least they're admitting it now, portrayed it was as if the Ethiopian government went ahead and attacked the people of Tigray. It wasn't between the Ethiopian government and the people of Tigray. It was between the Ethiopian government and the elite groups of the TPLF leadership that attacked or ordered their militias and special forces to attack the Ethiopian army in Tigray. So TPLF for the last 27 years had a network of media, UN organizations, human rights organizations, politicians, academicians, Western governments, especially in the US, that support them. They still do. And they're using that network to perpetuate false narratives.
So I realize I've been following the conflict, and it's as if TPLF has a lot of support from the international, not just international media, but international community. But the international community is the, let's say, the colonizers of Africa support the British, the Americans. I saw the other day someone, and I think it was in the British Parliament, talking about genocide in Tigray and calling for even the Nobel Peace Prize to be taken away from the Prime Minister of Ethiopia. And I was saying, like, it's kind of a little bit hypocrite because the United States and the United Kingdom and Canada support the president of Rwanda, Kagame, who, and Rwanda is a dictatorship, you know. And the Kagame army has invaded Congo. Rwanda under Kagame has invaded Congo and committed genocide in Congo. This is very well documented, very well known, but still, these powers, which call themselves international community, they support him. But then they turn around and they call out and they say, oh, they don't want to support Ethiopia because this and that, because of the government of Ethiopia or Abiy Ahmed may be committing genocide against the Tigrayans. And it doesn't make sense how they would support a criminal dictator committing genocide in Congo and ignore genocide in Congo for all these years. And then all of a sudden, they're ready to support a rebel movement against a democratic government under the pretense of genocide. Like, do they even care about Tigrayans? Like, what's going on really? Are they manipulating Tigrayans in order to bring back dictatorship in Ethiopia? Because maybe they're not happy with democracy in Africa because they support dictators. So now they're trying to destroy democracy. Like, what's up with that?
Yeah, that's the puzzling part. Honestly speaking, I'm still trying to understand. All of us Ethiopians are trying to understand why the U.S. would like to throw the democratically elected government and also support the TPLF, which is labeled or designated as a terrorist group. The only thing I can think of is that they have served them well. They have served their interest for the 27 years they were in power. And the U.S. and some of the Western governments or international community is pretty much, paying back for their service by supporting them in this treasonous act they committed against the Ethiopian army. And they said, they were using Tigray genocide as a propaganda. The Ethiopian Human Rights Commission, as well as the UN Human Rights Commissions, had completed their joint investigation, and they didn't find any evidence of genocide. Of course, they did find some human rights abuses from both sides. It wasn't only from the Ethiopian side. That's regrettable. But when you are in a conflict, those things happen. But the Ethiopian government has taken action on some of the rogue soldiers who committed human rights violations, and also has established a commission to review and follow up with the joint investigation report by the Ethiopian and the UN Human Rights Commission. So it's, the Ethiopian government is not saying there were no human rights violations, but definitely there was no evidence of genocide. I mean, Tigrayans are Ethiopians. I mean, my brother is married to a Tigrayan. I mean, how would we support that kind? I don't support none of either the Ethiopian government or the Ethiopian people support any abuses against the Tigrayans. But the way they portrayed it is to kind of pressure the Ethiopian government to stop this law enforcement operation. And the TPLF pretty much has, since the Ethiopian government declared ceasefire, as I told you, has invaded the Amhara and Afar region, potentially to come to power again by force. as they did in 1991. And the Ethiopian people are saying no. They are rising up and fighting back. And the international community is pretty much fanning the flames by, covertly and overtly supporting the TPLF. And there are evidences that they, in fact, are trying to have a regime change. Talk about democracy. It just doesn't add up. Why would they? That's my question. Why would they want a democratically elected government to be overthrown and put a tyrannical, corrupt TPLF back in power? Just doesn't. It just beyond me. So,
Mm-hmm.
other than
Oh,
their geopolitical interests, for sure, which we can
absolutely.
discuss.
Yeah. So I know you have to go, so I will bring up this question before you go, and this is the question of the dam that Ethiopia is building on the Nile, which a lot of people suspect that this is the bottom line, may be the fact that Ethiopia is free and is building itself and is building a dam on the Nile so that they can prosper in the future. Now, people have to understand that the Nile belongs to all Africa. The Nile
Yeah,
actually starts in our
yeah.
region: Burundi, Rwanda, Uganda, Sudan, Ethiopia, all the way to Egypt, all the way into the Mediterranean. The Nile does not belong to Egypt. Egypt built a dam on the Nile a long time ago. It's a huge, huge project in Egypt. They even built an artificial lake, all from the water of the Nile. They even displaced original Africans, black people in Egypt. They call them Nubians. We
Mhm.
have to remember that in ancient time, Egypt was inhabited by black people. Today, the main Egyptians are not black people, but back in the days, Egypt was inhabited by black people. The ancient Egyptian civilization is a black civilization. Back in the days, Ethiopia was one of those people who ruled Egypt. Now, these new Egyptians who are Asians, Europeans, Arabs, Persians, they seem to think that they're not part of Africa. And the president is saying, let's not reach a point where you touch a drop of Egypt's water because all options are open. I mean, are they Africans or not? Because this water does not belong to Egypt. It's not Egypt's water. The river goes through Africa. We can decide to build a dam on the Nile in the Great Lakes region. Are they going to start a war with the country that starts a dam when they themselves have built on the Nile, and no one has started a war with Egypt because they built on the Nile? So what is this idea that Egypt wants to sabotage Ethiopia precisely because of the dam? But they have a dam themselves. They've created artificial lakes, and now they would sponsor a war with the Americans against an African nation, which proves that they don't see themselves as Africans, or what's going on. How do you see this, and how do you think it's connected?
That's the other dynamic when it comes to this conflict in Ethiopia. Egypt and the Sudan are another destabilizing forces in that conflict. As you said, Ethiopia is building a large hydro dam called the GERD, or the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. And the GERD is built on Abai River, one of the major rivers, or actually it contributes about 80% of the water that flows to the Nile. The rest of it comes from upstream countries, starting from Burundi all the way up to Uganda and other countries. So about 15% of it comes through that White Nile, and the Blue Nile, which Abba is part of, contributes about 86%. And Ethiopia has never used a drop of water from Abai, where which Ethiopia is a source of, as I say, 86% of that water flow. So when Ethiopia started building these hydro dam, Egypt and now even Sudan is included, are opposing the construction of the dam to maintain their hegemony on the Nile waters.
Why don't they destroy their own dam? How come they get to keep their dam, but Ethiopia can't build a dam?
Well,
How about nobody builds on the Nile then?
yeah, yeah, definitely. In fact, they have been building infrastructure to sell water to Israel. They have enough water. They don't want the power and the hegemony they have on the Nile water to be taken away from them. So if upstream countries start to flex the muscles and say, we share part of this water, that means Egypt is not going to have any control over the Nile. So they have this old and colonial era agreements that they bring into the table, where Egypt uses 75% and of the water, and I believe Sudan uses about 15. The rest is for evaporation. How about the rest of us? How about the upstream countries who contribute the whole water? So that's what Ethiopia is asking. Ethiopia is asking just a share of the water. It's not even building a dam to control or to hold the water. Of course, when you fill up a hydro dam, for a time being, you have to hold the water, but you're gonna release it to generate electricity. So Ethiopia has put a plan in place to fill the dam in transition. We're not asking to fill up the dam in 1 year. There is a 5-year plan to fill up the dam. We have filled up the second filling just this past year, so there will be a third filling in the rainy season. So Egypt wants a guarantee to maintain the same amount of water any time of the year. How do you predict the climate? As you can see, we have an atmospheric river here in British Columbia. Like in the summer or spring this year, we didn't have water. How do you guarantee, I'm going to give you this? We're not God. Just be reasonable. That's what Ethiopia is asking, to be reasonable and settle this by negotiation. But instead, as you said, people, Egypt and Sudan are supporting this tyrannical and treasonous TPLF, which is deemed as terrorist organization by the Ethiopian parliament, to pretty much advance their goal, to delay the filling of the dam, or even eventually sabotage the dam. Honestly,
Yeah,
that
because
Ethiopia is building.
it's kind of it's very disturbing, because this is the Ethiopian Renaissance. So people interfering with it is like they're trying to have Ethiopia have an abortion or something. It's so bad.
Definitely, it's tragic,
Instead
honestly
of
speaking.
giving birth to a new era of freedom and
Yeah,
prosperity and independence, they want that to be aborted,
yeah,
and for Ethiopia to remain poor, and a lot of people to not benefit from the wealth that the magnificent continent has. So before you go, what is it that you want from the people, from the audience, from the Canadian government, from the US government, from the African diaspora? What do you want from the audience? And what is the best way to support the return of peace in Ethiopia, and to support the future of Ethiopia to be peaceful, and to be peace and prosperity? We are all Africans. Ethiopia, Addis Ababa, is the capital city of Africa because it hosts the African Union is in Addis Ababa, and this is why all Africans, are kind of concerned about Ethiopia, at least conscious Africans. But what do you want? And ideally, how do you wish to see this end? And what kind of help do you need?
Yeah, thank you so much, Louise. By the way, I'm free. I can stay. I have arranged for my obligations, so don't worry about the time. So I'm with
Oh,
you. Okay.
okay. My people,
So
he's a great father. He was supposed to go pick up the son. Oh, I was like, yo, I'm not gonna even complain. He's like, this is a man. He's trying to be a great father. I'm not interfering. You can go.
thank you so much. So very good question. I think that ultimately that's what is important. How can we help? What can we do? And this is first of all, I just want to highlight, as you did, the importance of Ethiopia in Africa. I mean, Ethiopia had played a huge role in the fight against colonialism, and also the struggle for freedom by African nations. Ethiopia, as you said, founded the Organization of African Union, the OAU, and is a member of the African Union. And the seat for the African Union is Addis Ababa. And some consider Addis Ababa as the capital city of Africa in a way. And the new Prime Minister Abiy, is a Pan-Africanist. That's what caused the U.S. and other Western nations an alarm, because he wants to ease visa restrictions. He wants to integrate Africa economically. He wants to build like roads from north to south, east to west, and he advocates for African solutions for African problems. So that didn't chime with the Western nations. They want to continue that neo-colonialist sentiment or mentality and impose their will as they want to on African nations, undermining the sovereignty and territorial integrity of African nations. So they use aid and all kinds of loans to control African nations and siphon out our resources to pretty much maintain the luxury they enjoy in the West. So the Horn of Africa is a very strategic place, as you kind of mentioned, and the U.S. and China are competing for Africa. And they both have built bases, military bases in Djibouti. And especially the U.S. is kind of playing a catch-up game after China has invested a lot in Africa. So that's where the other dynamic is. The U.S. has been trying to intervene with the internal affairs of Ethiopia because of that TPLF alliance with the U.S. in their fight against Al-Shabaab, like Islamic fundamentalists. And also, as I mentioned earlier, U.S. has been supporting a regime change, and has been imposing a series of sanctions on Ethiopia. For example, the Biden administration has threatened to remove Ethiopia and a couple of other African nations from African Growth Opportunity Act, AGOA program, which provides trade preferences such as duty-free entry into the U.S. For certain goods if Ethiopia doesn't reverse course. And the international community, especially the U.S., has been pressuring the Ethiopian government to negotiate with TPLF, and which is, as I said, deemed a terrorist organization. Also, in November 2020, on November 25th, just a few days, a couple of weeks ago, a leaked video showed a top TPLF leader meeting with current and former Western diplomats and
Oh,
discussing to overthrow the democratically elected government
I saw that. I saw that.
and
That is
replacing it with a
crazy.
transitional government. I
I
mean,
saw,
yeah,
I saw that. I isn't that like I saw that and I was like, if this is what diplomats are doing, what are the people who are non-diplomats plotting?
yeah,
Because usually diplomats are supposed to be operating in peace,
yeah,
right? Diplomatic solution is a peaceful solution for intelligent people to sit together and to come to an agreement. So to see people who are professional diplomats plotting to overthrow a democratically
yeah,
elected government by using an armed group.
yeah.
If this is what the diplomats are doing, what are the rest of the people doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the rest of the people, the CIA and all that instrument they have to pretty much control the narratives and to create a false propaganda to pretty much advance their agenda. And that's what exactly they did when the US and the mainstream media, such as CNN, um, tried to incite, are still trying to incite mass hysteria by spreading false rumors that the TPLF has encircled Addis Ababa, and they've been urging US and other citizens to leave the capital. And you know, so interesting that to the extent that the Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA, the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration, issued an alert that planes functioning at Addis Ababa airport may be directly or indirectly exposed to ground weapons fires and or surface to air fire because the TPLF is right on the outskirts, which is untrue. TPLF, actually, CNN had a picture which was taken years ago, I don't know when, showing the TPLF, alleging that the TPLF is just outside Addis Ababa, which they were 200-300 kilometers away. And also, I mean, social media, if you go to social media, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, have suspended some of the pro-Ethiopian accounts. And when you see all this, this is not just an Ethiopian conflict. This is a neo-colonialism agenda that the West is trying to push by flexing its muscles and subduing Ethiopia to bend to its their demands. And if Ethiopia falls, there is a saying: when Ethiopia sneezes, the rest of Africa catches cold, in a way, because that's what they can hit hard, where the AU is, and the country that has never been colonized. So when you see this, you would wonder, where's the next crisis going to be, and where's the next regime change is going to be in Africa. It would be a matter of time.
Yeah,
So
because if they can sabotage a democracy like Ethiopia, I'm thinking if they were to be successful at overthrowing a democracy in Ethiopia, then they would follow up in Kenya. The
that's right.
entire, because Ethiopia being powerful, Kenya is a stabilizing nation right here. Somalia has been unstable for a while. So Ethiopia and Kenya are like the stable nations right here. So if they attack Ethiopia, they'll follow up with Kenya, and then the entire East Africa has fallen.
Yeah, that's right. So this conflict pretty much has expanded to, as I said, a scramble for Africa, has become a scramble for Africa. It is just a neo-colonialism in action, pretty much. So I say to my African, I'll probably end by giving some of the things that what the Africans and your audiences can do. But to I just want to mention this. First of all, Africans have the right to decide their destiny without intervention or interferences from foreign nations. So that's what the hashtag No More movement has been trying to advance. Probably, I don't know if you have seen it on social media, especially on Twitter. It's been trending for the last few weeks since the beginning of November. And No More campaign is to say no more to war, no more to support for TPLF by the US, no more to intervention, no more to disinformation, and no more to sanctions on Ethiopia, Eritrea, and Somalia. That's what the US has been doing. And Pan-Africanist organizations as well as individuals have joined this movement, and so should the rest of Africans and your listeners, honestly. To urge, so I urge my African brothers and sisters and people who actually advocate for human rights and the rights of nations, who believe in sovereignty and in territorial integrities of African nations, to join us in getting engaged in the No More movement and other platforms like your show, U&I Talk Show, to create awareness about this issue. It's not about just Ethiopia. It's an African war we're fighting. So they can also follow ECNAS, which I represent. We have a Facebook called Ethio-Canadian Network for Advocacy and Support. We also, our Twitter handle is at @ECNAS_CA. So they can also get more information through other YouTube and Twitter channels. Hermela TV is a good source. She's a very good journalist who actually has been a leading activist or a leading force in the No More movement. And Swahili Nation is a good source. Breakthrough News, Jeff Pierce, probably some of you have heard. He's a very good source of information as well. Unfortunately, we used to have Horn of Africa Hub Twitter account. Twitter has suspended it for no apparent reason, unfortunately. So I urge also my African brothers and sisters, anyone who believes in humanity, to urge their leaders and their citizenry to help Ethiopia. I also want your audiences to contact their MPs and the media to express their concerns about this conflict. And those are things they can do. They can make themselves informed and be engaged and be involved. And also, if they can, we have a lot of IDPs, millions of IDPs because of this conflict. And we've been fundraising. If they wish to donate or help with fundraising, they can also contact me. I can leave my number or an email with you, Louise. So there is all sorts of things people can get engaged in this.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I'm so inspired. I was so inspired. You mentioned Hermela TV. I was so inspired by her because she has chosen to put the truth above the tribalism mentality. And this is exactly what we need. You have to put the truth above your tribe. You need to see beyond your little tribe, and you need to even see beyond your country and see the entire Africa and beyond. So the thing that she has inspired me with is because she was Tigrayan, raised up as Tigrayan, but then she exposes how TPLF is using Tigrayans, but really they have another agenda. They're not necessarily serving Tigrayan interests. So she rose above her tribe to see the bigger interest of the entire country. And even for us Africans, we need to raise above our own little countries and see the whole Africa. So it's in that spirit that, you know, I'm from Rwanda, and a lot of people have been sending me what consider as rumors that need to be investigated. And I think it's important to expose these rumors in that spirit of seeing beyond your little country and seeing the interest of all Africa. So, some of the rumors to be investigated was like, what is the role Rwanda is playing behind Kagame, because Kagame is supported by the U.S. and he was supported by the U.S. even going into Congo, even causing genocide into Congo. So the rumor that needed to be investigated was that they were saying that they were going to use Kagame and Rwanda to sabotage Ethiopia, or to play the double game, pretend to be helping the government, but also secretly helping TPLF, because they want to sabotage the Ethiopian economy, Ethiopian Airlines, and replace it with Rwanda Air. And I've heard that Congolese complaining that there's an agreement between Rwanda and Congo to use the Goma airport. Rwanda can use the Goma airport. So when they cause chaos in Ethiopia, when they sabotage Ethiopian airlines, then they could also have flights go to Kigali and Goma. The other thing that I have heard that I want people to investigate is that they will want to move the African Union headquarters from Addis Ababa to Kigali, and everything in Rwanda is owned by Kagame, and people are saying that he stands to benefit from the conflict and from helping the TPLF and from serving the colonizers, because that's what he already does. What do you say to that? You know, they say that he's already been used to destroy Congo, and there's no reason why he can't be used in Ethiopia. And then they will pretend to help both sides and then claim that they have helped whichever side wins, which is usually the game that the US plays. They usually help both sides, and then whichever wins, they're like, oh, we helped you. And then, so the last thing that I would like to remind people is that in Rwanda, Kagame came to power TPLF style and was helped by the same that are helping Tigrayans against Ethiopia today. And then Kagame has used Rwanda to destroy Congo and commit genocide there. So, what do you think about these things?
Hmm. Honestly, Louise, I'm not really knowledgeable about these allegations, but definitely I've heard rumors that Kagame had a good relationship with TPLF, and even after the conflict started, there were rumors that some Tigrayans were trying to go to the Tigray to join the army to fight against the Ethiopian government from some Arab countries. And the Ethiopian government, there was some kind of blockade or some talk about them coming to Tigray directly. But when the Ethiopian government refused, these are rumors. They finally was transported to Rwanda for training. Though these are rumors, I have no evidence. And some of the things that you've mentioned, Yassine, I had talked to Yassine. Unfortunately, he's not here today. But when I talked to him yesterday, he mentioned a few of the things that you mentioned. But I have no knowledge of that, so I can't speak on those matters.
Yes, Yasin is from Uganda, and he had mentioned that even Museveni was supporting TPLF. There were people who came to post on my Facebook talking about how the son of the president in Uganda had publicly posted talking about how he's supporting TPLF. But Kagame and Museveni are supported by the United States, so it wouldn't be surprising if that was the case because they're supported by the US anyways. So the other thing that's a little bit suspicious is the former Ethiopian Prime Minister Desalegn. He goes to Rwanda all the time, and he said that Rwanda has been selected to host the headquarters of the African Green Revolution Forum. This is the forum that he is the head of. So this is the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, who was the very first ruler in modern history to step down. Previous leaders have died in office or been overthrown. So this former prime minister of yours has put the headquarters of his organization in Rwanda, in Kigali, and then well, Kigali, Rwanda is a dictatorship. It's a criminal dictatorship ruled by one party. They don't want democracy. The first family, Kagame, owns everything and employs everyone in the country. So it's kind of funny that this man would choose to put the headquarters of his organization there, even though it's a dictatorship, when his own country has just became a democracy. It's fishy. So people say that there's a fishy relationship there, that maybe he put his organization in Rwanda to have an excuse to be in Rwanda, but that he is in Rwanda plotting against Ethiopia with Kagame and the colonial powers. I don't know what you say about that.
You know, I won't speak specifically to this matter because I don't have knowledge. But in general, though, in general, TPLF has so many tentacles in Ethiopia, and even in the army, because they control the army, the economy, the diplomacy, and all walks of life when they were in power for 27 years. And some of the officials who benefited from TPLF are believed to be loyal, I think, to TPLF, although some of them support the Prime Minister Abiy's government. I will not be surprised even higher officials who have connections and things like that could still be behind the TPLF and plotting against the Ethiopian government. In fact, one of the people who participated in this leaked video I mentioned earlier is also a UNDP employee.
The
And
lady, the Ethiopian lady.
yes, yes, Eleni, I think Gabra Medihin or something. So, I mean, she was part of the economic planning team, which now is no more. But there are. I will not be surprised if there are still some who think TPLF might come to power and maintain their luxury and benefits and from that they enjoyed while they were in power. So I can only say in general terms, but I don't have a specific information about Kagame and Mr. Desalegne's relationship and why this um, um, organization's headquarters would be in Kigali. Yeah, I don't know why. No, no idea.
Mm-hmm. Because Kagame was a friend of Abiy Ahmed, and Abiy Ahmed has been involved in the Rwandan conflict. In 1995, they say he was deployed as a member of the United Nations in Rwanda, so he knows about Rwanda. Now, there's this saying, this is a quote: only an African nation can defeat another African nation. This, do you think this is mainly why they need TPLF in order to go against Ethiopia? Because really only an African nation can defeat another African nation.
You know, the way TPLF came to power, 30 years ago, was by power, by overthrowing the then government. The government was not, it was a military junta that was in power at the time. So people didn't like that government, and the US actually was a kingmaker. They actually let them take power without even involving other opposition party from Ethiopia, because they thought they would serve their purpose. So I will not be surprised whenever they want an African nation to work for them, or get serve their agenda. They will not go too far, because in Somalia, that's what they did. They sent the TPLF government to go and pretty much invade Somalia. So obviously, that's what they want to do. That's what they're doing in Ethiopia, and they have. I mean, They have a base in Djibouti. Djibouti openly said, "I will not allow anyone to attack Ethiopia from my land." And now they're probably trying to use Sudan. They have a cozy relationship with the Sudan, even if the Sudan is also, having its own unrest, because the military uh, government in the Sudan is trying to control the power, overthrow the civilian leadership. But that's what they do. They don't want to face the same kind of defeat they faced when they tried to go to Somalia in the 90s and suffered a big loss. They don't want to come like that. They don't want to do it. They send their mercenaries. I mean, Yassine had told me they have a mercenary group in Uganda. I don't have any idea why they would have a mercenary in Uganda. For what reason? Why? That's an African nation. There is a big distance. There is, an ocean between the US and Africa, the African continent. Why do they need their dirty hands in Africa? Why?
Mm,
Why do, the most important question is, why would the African nations allow that? Because when the time comes and the U.S. interest is no more, they are not serving the U.S. interest anymore, that government would be the next to be overthrown. U.S. has no kind of mercy, in a sense. They only take advantage and suck the resources and leave you empty. They are only there to advance their own interests, their own agenda. And I hope African nations will wake up, including Rwanda, will wake up and say no to no more, no more to interference, no more to stealing our resources, no more interfering in our sovereignty and territorial integrity. If they allow them, they should expect they would be the next target for the U.S. Yeah.
absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I would like to end the show reminding people of why Ethiopia represents African unity, and how Ethiopia managed to win against European colonization and destruction of their country. And maybe I may let you speak on this story if you know the story. I'm pretty sure you may. The story of how when the Europeans were trying to colonize Ethiopia, they went behind Menelik II and seeked out Ras Mengesha. They tried to corrupt a fellow Ethiopian against Ethiopia. They went and tried to corrupt Ras Mengesha. They gave him power of the guns. They gave him arms on arms and arms so that he can fight against his brothers in Ethiopia, against Menelik. And what he did that is so magnificent and wonderful that all Africa should be reminded right now, and why Ethiopia represents African unity, is that instead of taking those arms, the firepower that he had gotten from the Europeans, and use that power against his own African brothers, against Ethiopia, against Menelik II, he went to Menelik II a few days before the start of the war, and he told him, the Europeans have tried to corrupt me. They have given me the power of the guns, but I don't want to be corrupted. I don't want to kill my own brothers. I want African unity. I want Ethiopian unity. And he went he rebelled against the Europeans himself, and he reunited with Menelik, and both of them they put their power together, and instead of fighting each other, they fought against the Europeans, and they won, and that is how Ethiopia stayed free of colonization and destruction. Now, did I get it right, or did I forget something?
Well, I do not know a lot about this specific one, but obviously you're talking about the war in Adwa, the place called Adwa, which is actually situated in Tigray. When that war started in 1895 or 96, all Ethiopians from all walk of life came to stand with Menelik. And these were not regular soldiers. These were just farmers and just basically individuals who stood up against the colonial power. And they went with Menelik. And when they got there, yeah, there were some double agents actually who played a big role in the fight. So they gave Menelik very strategic information, especially on the day of the final battle. Menelik had very critical information where it was a Sunday. There's a kind of anecdotal information. It was a Sunday, and Menelik was a religious man. So the Italians were told, Menelik is going to go to church, or he's going to go for worship on Sundays. If we attack him, his soldiers on a Sunday, we're going to have the upper hand. But Menelik was ready for that. He didn't go to church. He prayed his prayers and waited for them, and that was how they were defeated. Actually, they played them. And of course, there were some brave Ethiopians that really paid the ultimate price to keep Ethiopia free. And as I said earlier, Ethiopia became a beacon of freedom for other African nations. So I think when I see some of the attempts by international community now, probably we're still paying the price for what we did to them in 1895. So, definitely it was a united Ethiopia, which was not divided by ethnicity, was not divided by background, was not divided by anything, but they came together and went with their king, supported their king, and defeated a foreign enemy. And Africans should do the same. When African nations like Ethiopia are attacked by neo-colonialist nations like the US.
Absolutely. And I would like to remind people that back in the days, the word Ethiopian simply meant all black people. Like if you have a black face, you were called Ethiopian. They used to use the word Ethiopian to designate all black people, you know? So all black people should feel concerned when they mention Ethiopia, because really what Ethiopian means is black black face, right? And I would like to, I've been saying I would like to end a lot, eh?
I'm happy to be here. I mean, it's
I'm
very
so happy
interesting.
you stayed because we really had to go through this conversation. Another thing that I've seen on the internet that I really would like to be part of this show is the China. Because a lot of people when they have a lot of African people when they have issues with the West or the U.S. and the Europeans, then they go to China, right? I would like to remind Africans that only Africans can save themselves, and China is no savior because China has hidden its history. China has a long history, even though China doesn't have a history of colonization in Africa, but they have a long history of racism and white supremacy in Asia, and they have a long history also of exterminating Black people in Asia and killing Black civilizations. So this is a book that I highly recommend because a lot of Africans don't know about China, and they always rejoice when China is coming to Africa. It's called the Pachet's Principle, the Great Secret of Asia. This little book goes into ancient China and the relationship with ancient Japan and Korea, and shows how in ancient times there was a Black civilization in Asia, and that civilization was destroyed and exterminated by China. So Africans have to be really, really careful when they think that if they have a problem with the West, then the solution is to go with China. I don't know what you think about that.
I definitely believe that. Africa has to start taking back its own rights. It has to start, instead of exporting resources, has to start manufacturing and be self-sufficient. All outside nations, China or US or any Western nation, come to Africa because of our resources. And the way they come is using aid as a means. So if we continue to rely on aid, we will always be dependent on US, China, or any other country. So by taking ownership of our destiny, by manufacturing, by building infrastructures, by stopping corruption, by electing democratically elected governments, by building democratic institutions, justice, and so on. That's the only way we can advance. Don't expect China or anyone to be our saviors. No, they come for their own benefit. They give you in one hand, they take in like double or more. I mean, it's not even give and take, give and steal. That's how they operate. I mean, we should know that. I mean, and I don't know why. I mean, there is a big reliance nowadays on China. I mean, China is there to serve its own purpose. It needs resources, and these resources are abundant in Africa. They need those resources. They have a big population. I mean, as you said, yeah, they are not they don't have that neo-colonial agenda, but this is economic neocolonialism in a way. They want take advantage of the economic or the resources Africa has. So African leaders, African people have to start thinking to take their own destiny into their own hands.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Appreciate this. Is there any last things that you would want to say? Is there any important things that we haven't addressed that before you go, you want to talk about that? What is your closing, what is your closing speech, if I may?
You know, as I said earlier, this conflict in Ethiopia is not just a conflict that Ethiopia can win on its own. We need each and every African, every one that supports, believes in sovereignty and the territorial integrity of African nations, to come and support us, to come out and support us, be vocal, stand with us. We need to really, if we win this war, that's
Hey,
waste.
when you win this war.
Yes, when. That's right. It's not if. It's a given. We'll win. This is gonna pass. Definitely. Thanks for correcting me. When we win this game, this war, it will be a victory to all Africans, like Adwa was a victory to all African nations. So this is a fight. You have to come and stand with us and fight with us. It's a matter of survival. It's a matter of deciding our destiny. It's a matter of saying no more to colonialism all over again. Thank you.
I think that is so perfect. Ethiopia wins, Africa wins, even humanity wins, because Africans are very rich continent, are very rich people, but Africans are also a very generous people. I think this is something that people need to realize. It's in the best interest of Africa and the best interest of the world that if Africa is left to have peace and prosperity, because of the nature and the culture of Africans who are so generous, they will share their wealth with the rest of the world. But if the world continues to attack Africa and seek to plunder and pillage and destroy Africa, nobody wins. So it's a win-win for all of us. If when Africa is at peace and prosperity, we will share the wealth. We gave birth to civilization. We care about the entire world, but the rest of the world has to understand to respect Africa, respect Africans. Let it be peaceful, and prosperity will come to all. Thank you so much. I love what you said. Ethiopia wins, Africa wins. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Louise. I really appreciate the opportunity that you've given me to discuss this very important matter to Ethiopia and Africa in general. So I hope I'll come again and discuss more. But if you let me go now, or unless there's other questions, I'll step
I'll
out.
definitely let you go, and then we'll keep in touch and stay in touch. Whenever you have anything, let us know. And then anybody asks me, I will communicate your email to them so that they can contact you and see how they can support you even further than this.
Definitely.
All
Thank you
right.
so much again.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Bye.
All right, my people. You heard, my people. You heard. Okay. This is not about our tiny little countries anymore. This is about the entire continent of Africa, the original people on this planet. It's about understanding what it is that we have to do right now so that the continent of Africa can remain free, my people. What we want is freedom. Now, you would think that America being a democratic country, this is my message to America. America being a democratic country, if we would respect democracy and support democracy in Africa, it would be the favorite partner for Africans, because Africans who came to America, whichever way they came, you can see that Africans are more successful in America, because America is a democratic country. So if America supports democracy in Africa, they would be like a favorite partner for Africans, even compared to the Chinese and the Europeans, even compared to the Chinese, because the Chinese have not dealt with their history yet. And on top of that, China is not a democracy. So America needs to rethink its foreign policy and have great foreign policy for Africa, and this will make America become the favorite partner for Africa, such a rich continent. You want to have Africa on your side. You want to have Africans on your side. Support democracy. All right, my people. Okay, so let me end the English part of the show, and then I will comment a tiny little bit in Kinyarwanda, and then the show will end. Now, before I end the English part, I would like to invite all of you, my people. I would like to invite all of you. We have a fundraising campaign to raise money for Rwandan refugees, and it's happening on December 18th. December 18th, my people. Save the date. We're going to end the year practicing ubuntu, practicing ubumana, being generous to refugees, helping SOS Refugee. SOS Refugee is based in Belgium, and they do an amazing job of supporting refugees. So we're doing a fundraising campaign for them, and I am hosting the fundraising party, my people, and it's gonna happen on Umutware TV. You know, Freeman, Freeman, yo, I'm coming to take over your channel, and then we're going to be united and then raise as much money as we can while having a great party, while having a great time. My people, hey, December 18th, nah, it's going to be fire. It's going to be fire, yo. All right, my people. So thank you so much for being here. I love you all. Let's end this show, and then I'll comment in Kinyarwanda. Aye. Yeah. My people. Okay, tugeze mu Kinyarwanda. Ethiopia, nizere ko muri gusapotinga Ethiopia demokarasi, kuko niba turi abakunzi ba demokarasi, hakaba hari igihugu gifite demokarasi. Nge mbona Ethiopia igeze nk'aho twifuza kugana. Yavuye muri criminal dictatorship. Iyo dictatorship yari imazemo imyaka n'imyaka n'imyaka, hanyuma bagize imana bageze muri demokarasi. Noneho ya dictatorship yari isanzwe bategeka iti ntago tubyemeye, bashatse kugaruka ku butegetsi bakoresheje imbunda. Nanone nibaza ko ari urwo rugamba rwa Ethiopia muri makeya ari uko biteye. Rero inkuru z'uko u Rwanda Kagame ari muri iyi conflict, sinzi niba mwarabyiboneye, abantu barabinyohereje kuri Facebook yanjye, barabivuze, bavuze ibya Ethiopian Airlines, bavuze ibya aeroport Kigali, aeroport ya Goma, barangije bavuga n'ibya African Union. Murabizi neza ko ari amazu menshi bubatse i Kigali nta bantu barimo, kuko nta bantu bashaka kujya mu Rwanda ku investing, ari dictatorship. Mwarabibonye ko amafaranga ajya mu Rwanda amenshi ava muri diaspora. Diaspora dinga irenda kwikuba kabiri amafaranga ngo foreign investors bajyana mu Rwanda. Diaspora n'abakire. Diaspora yohereza mu Rwanda amafaranga aruta ayo dictatorship ikura ngo mu ba foreign investors. Akaba ari nayo mpamvu ejo bundi muri ntuza muri ikiganiro cya SOS cyo gufasha impunzi, niteguye ko tuzafasha impunzi ebana maximum contribution. Nyine namwe murabyumva, tubafitiye surprise nyinshi cyane. Kazuba ndagukeneye muri kiriya kiganiro we. Turaba hari akagahunda tugomba kuvugana, ndagukeneye muri icyo kiganiro. Ubu byiteguye gusa, ndagukeneye. Thank you so much, Kazuwa, supporting you and I and everybody else who supports you and I, you know. So, niba hari ibibazo mufite, mwabaza, you know, nkihari hano, otherwise, ubwo nyine, you know, ndabaretse. Inoti zacu nizubahwe, ekoma batazubaha se sizo zibatunze kurusha foreign investors. Ni ibintu bishimishe cyane. Yes. Nuko rero abashaka kudusapotinga hano kuri U&I TALK SHOW, dore uko mwadusapotinga. Nuko iyi show tumaze dukora rero nk'andi mashow menshi dukora hano, murabizi ko haca kuri televiziyo. Icyo dukora hano tuba twabitepinze live, nubwo byamara isaha cyangwa isaha n'igice, version izaca kuri televiziyo barayifata nyine bakayihinduramo kagashow gashoti nyine ka 30 minutes. Urumva se akaba ariyo berekana kuri televiziyo, kuko kuri televiziyo sport nyinshi ebana sera ari kubona show imara isaha, show nyinshi sport ni 30 minutes. Iyo twakoze rero show irengeje 30 minutes, icyo bakora ni ukubikatamo nka part 1 part 2. Nk'ubu nibaza ko iyi show y'uyu munsi izagera part 1 part 2, nuko kugira ngo byose byumvikane. Rero ndashimira abantu bose badufasha, badukurikira bose buri gihe. I can't wait igikorwa cyo kurangiza umwaka cyo gufasha impunzi. I'm looking forward to that. And I can't wait. Ambiance. Mbe mbivuze hakiri kare ko abantu batazaza baje muri ambiance, mushatse mwakwigumira iwanyu. Ebana Kadogo hano ati shaka kohereza amafaranga mwakariya gahugu ntibikwiye, ariko tubura uko twabigenza kubera avandimwe dufite. Exactement. Ibyo bintu mbyita urukundo. Abanyarwanda rwose muri imfura mugira n'urukundo. Kuva kera abanyarwanda babaga mu Rwanda bafashaga impunzi zabaga hanze. Ni ubwa mbere mu mateka y'u Rwanda habayeho impunzi zifasha abantu bari mu gihugu, ariko urumva still ko izo mpunzi zifasha abantu bari mu gihugu zifite urukundo, kubera ko ziravuga ziti dictatorship itumariye abantu bishwe n'inzara, none se turabigenza gute? Mukavuga nyine reka tubafashe, nyine turi abantu dufite ubuntu, kandi turabizi neza ko dictatorship ibakandamije bya hatari. Rero rwose none se Imana izabahemba, Imana izabiduhembera aho mwafashije bose. Ngiye nkunda kuvuga nyine kora ikiza ukagisanga imbere, gufasha nyine uba ushyize ibyiza muri bank account. Kandi umusatsi wakubera nkabonye ukuntu nakoze ibintu bya self sabotage. Biriya bintu nakoze babyita self sabotage. Umuntu yifitiye umusatsi ntacyo ubaye, arawogosha wumazeho. Ese nk'ubu iyo utongera kumera ariko bigenza gute? Ibaze nk'ubu mwogosha umusatsi wose, hanyuma umusatsi ukanga kumera, agasigarana uruhara for life. Yo, thank you man. Dore ko byifashe. Wongeye uramera. Yo, hari abantu hano bafite uruhara, bazanye uruhara like bataranageza n'imyaka yo kuzana impara. Birirwa bambwe ngo uyu data we Louise we ngo turashaka gukoresha imisatsi, ngo umunsi ngo twakoresheje imisatsi muri laboratoire nyine, ngo hanyuma ngo bazaza bafate sample y'imisatsi yanjye ngo ariyo bajya gukoresha, kuko kabe imisatsi yanjye ni thick kandi yongeye yanyuzuranye. So yeah, thank you man. I don't know what's going on. Ni umutima mwiza. Ese ubu mubona Afurika izigobotora umukoroni koko? Exactly. Iyi rero ngenda abona ahubwo turi mu ntambara yo kwigobotora umukoroni. Noneho abanyafurika nidufatanya right now, tukajya hamwe tugasevinga Ethiopia, tugafatanya n'abanyethiopia, kandi murabizi neza ko aribo abantu batabaye colonized, ari abantu bari free and independent. Right now iyi ntuza intambara irakomeye cyane, kuko nidufatanya tugafasha Ethiopia igatsinda, Afrika yose izabitsinze, kandi bizaba a new era yo kwigobotora umukoroni. Ariko iyi ntambara Ethiopia ntigomba gutsindwa iyi ntambara, kuko byaba ari colonization igarutse. Iyi ni colonization ishaka kugaruka. you know what I mean? So yes, tuzigobotora umukoroni kubera ko twebwe mu mateka yacu tumaze kuri ubu butaka bw'isi imyaka ibihumbi n'ibihumbagaza. Civilization yacu yo muri Kemet yamaze imyaka ibihumbi, urumva se aba bakoroni abanyamerika, civilization y'abanyamerika nta n'imyaka 300 baramara ku isi. Urumva rero twebwe nk'abantu bamazeho imyaka ibihumbi n'ibihumbagaza, conflict turimo ni temporaire na domination yabo ni temporaire. Tuzibohora, turimo kwibohora, byabaye, you know. Bamukunde yo, bamukunde yo, yambi dore nari hafi kurambura amaboko nibuka ko nyine hano harimo kuvamo amazi, sinzi niyo hano hari umugezi bateyemo, noneho rero ukaba uri gushoka amazi. I don't understand, ariko hano hose huzuye amazi fasora. Donc ntago mbashije kurambura amaboko yo bamukunde sha, nabonye igikorwa wakoze yo bamukunde. Oya ni wowe ngiye gushimira, nabonye igikorwa wakoze. Hanyuma wagiye kwisurira impunzi, wigerereyeyo, uzabitwibwirira neza ejo bundi. Yo bamukunde, urakagabo no. Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much. Donc uri gusetting a great example. Thank you so much. Urakoze cyane bamukunde. I can't wait to see you again. Turi kumwe. Courage sis, initiative n'utware. Aha, turi kumwe. Abanyarwanda nabo bagomba kumenya ko bagomba gushaka allies. Exactly. Aba allies bacu n'abakunzi b'ukuri mu bihugu turimo byose. Kubera ko the foundation, you know, ubumwe bwacu bwubatse he? Bwubatse mu kuri. Umuntu wese uri mu kuri, turi kumwe, turi muri ubwo bumwe bwo gukunda ukuri no kwimika ukuri. Aho turi hose rero, allies bacu n'abakunzi b'ukuri. Mujye mukora research, mu targeting. Inaha ndabikora, reka mbibwirire. Ukora research hanyuma ugatargeting umuntu, kandi ukajya kumureba nyine umubwira uti ndabizi ko wowe uri umuntu ukunda ukuri kandi usupportinga ibintu bizima by'abantu. Rero nkuzaniye dosiye nzima, you know. Bamukunde. No, merci. Claude Gateuchi, Claude Gateuchi, komera cyane. Ethiopians called out Kagame rightfully when they said that Kagame is a mouse pretending to be a lion. Yo, mwabonye sintare yanjye hari intare. Yo, ariko vrema yaza kuba ari intare imyaka yose amaze kuri dictatorship mu Rwanda, ababyibuze agiye kuvaho asize abanyarwanda muri demokarasi. Ariko ni gute waba ukunda igihugu cyawe hanyuma ukakibeshaho muri dictatorship, ukakibeshaho mu bukene? Sinzi niba muzi ubukene buri mu Rwanda, ariko ngewe iyo babimbwiye I'm like oh my god, ndanabyibonera. David Himbara aherutse no gusohora raporo nshyashya, murabizi ko twakoranye show yerekana ukuntu economic success ari fake. Ubwo koko urwo n'urukundo nyabaki rukubeshaho, rutuma abanyagihugu babaho mu bukene, mu bujiji, wowe ukohereza abana bawe kwiga mu mahanga, you don't care. Ebana, donc yagize opportunity zo gusiga amateka meza, ariko bizamugora cyane gusiga amateka meza kubera iyo legacy yuko ikibazo nyamukuru cyatumye no mu Rwanda haba intambara, demokarasi, abaturage bihitiremo abayobozi bashaka. Ibyo byose nta byabaye, malgré amaraso yose yamenetse muri kiriya gihugu kugira ngo abantu bibohore. Nyine murabizi nyine ko nababwiye bya fake kwibohora, namwe musanzwe mubizi. So defeat total. Ngiye mbona victory, military victory, en fait ni isomo rikomeye cyane ko military victory mu buzima idahagije, kandi mbega abantu bagize iyo power yo kugira military victory, ariko nyuma ya military victory nta moral victory bagize, nta social victory bagize, nta mental victory, nta spiritual victory. Abantu baracyariho mu bukene, no mu bujiji ni ibintu bikomeye cyane. Donc amateka azabibabaza, abanyarwanda b'ejo n'ejo bundi bazabibabaza, bazavuga bati koko urukundo rwanyu ni uruhe? Dictatorship. So my people, mbibutse ko mbonye Gatebuke hano na Mukunde hano mpita nibuka hari na Ribaruwa riraye, Ribaruwa riraye, Ribaruwa riraye, yo Ribaruwa riraye iri lo 11 Decembre. Le 11 Decembre ni ryari? Le 11 Decembre ni samedi prochain my people. Donc bivuga ngo samedi prochain muri Ribaruwa riraye ubwo nyine muzabe muhari. Hanyuma samedi ikurikiraho muri fundraising ya SOS refugees my people muzabe muhari. Nibyo gusa dore nongere mbibutse gahunda nuko ngo izabera kuri ku Mutware, izabera ku Mutware kwa Freeman, mwese murahazi. Yebana nzagenda gukora kudeta kwa Freeman, ubwo mumuteguze, sinzi ukuntu mbyega bizagenda, ariko icyo nzi nuko ngewe mfite gahunda yo gukora yo kudeta. Mumubwire rero hakiri kare. Alright my people, mwakoze cyane, turi kumwe, ndabakunda Santima Moko. Mwarakoze cyane abadufashije bose umwaka wose. Umwaka urangiye neza cyane, umwaka wagenze neza, urangiye neza. Ndashimira abo twabanye bose mu mahoro, mu kuri. You know it, you know who you are, man. Cheers to you, cheers to Africa, cheers to the victory of truth, okay, the victory of democracy, peace and prosperity muri Africa no ku isi hose my people. Cheers to that. Iyi rero bakaba bayita ngo Ethiopian wine. Ethiopian wine, Ethiopian wine bayita tej. Sinzi niba mwumva ibyari byo, ni tej, ni nk'urwagwa rwo muri Ethiopia nyine, ariko bo ngo niba bayikoresha ngo hani niba ari iki, I don't care man, it tastes good. Sinzi ibyo muzaba muri kumwe ari 11 na 18. Claude tubwire. Nuko rero cheers, sante, murakoze cyane. Alright my people, reka rero ndangiza iki kiganiro, hanyuma nyine vendredi nyine ikomeze, hanyuma ndangirize kuri aka gafoto ka African Union. Reba amateka y'u Rwanda. Uziko kuri kano gafoto ka foundation ya African Union hariho ba Haile Selassie. Uziko hariho n'umuperezida w'u Rwanda witwa Kayibanda, you know. Sinzi niba mubibona neza, you know. Reba rero ukuntu amateka agenda. Reba kuva iki gihe muri 63 kugeza right now, u Rwanda democracy 0. Kuva igihe African Union yabereye, u Rwanda democracy 0. Ethiopia yo byibuze yari yigereye muri demokarasi, barayirusha demokarasi. Kenya iracyafite demokarasi. Ibijya handi nabyo murabizi. Dore Nyerere arahari, my favorite. Niwe muntu Nyerere unyenspira ngo kuba mwarimu. Kari agaterme ko kwigira mwarimu nagakopeye kwa Nyerere. Nuko. So my people, murakoze cyane. Ubwo nyine naho muri ibyo biganiro byose nababwiye, mugiriye ibihe byiza aho muri hose. Ebana ndabakunda Santima Moko. Thank you so much. Turi kumwe. Okay, show rero irarangiye. Ubwo nyine ndabakunda Santima Moko. Bizu. Ubwo nyine abo turi buhure muri after show, after show, off screen, off camera, ubwo nyine gahunda muza hariho. All right. All right, my people. Ciao. bizu bizu bamukunde. No, sha bamukunde, naremeye sha, naremeye pe, naremeye. No, ni biriya rero, biriya nibyo umuntu aba agomba kuba mu buzima, be like bamukunde. Niba uvuze ko uzakora ikintu gikora. Ukuntu se yabikoze muri bucece hanyuma agakora tu, hanyuma akatwereka amafoto yabirangije. I love it with all my heart. Anyways, muramuki. Duhorana Imana, duhorana Imana, duhorana Imana.